All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful mental model, one that can totally change how you solve problems and see the world around you. It's called systems thinking, and it's based on the incredible work of Steven Schuster.
You know that feeling, don't you? You solve one problem, you put out one fire, and then, boom, another one pops right up, sometimes even worse than the first. It feels like this endless, frustrating game of whack-a-mole. Well, what if I told you the problem isn't the problem? What if it's the way you're thinking about it?
So why does this keep happening? Why do our problems seem to just bounce back? Well, it turns out the reason they feel like they have a life of their own is that we've all been taught to see them in a way that just doesn't line up with how the world actually works.
Most of us are trained in what's called linear thinking. It's simple, right? We see a problem, that's the effect, and we look for one single cause. A leads to B. But the real world? Come on, it's not a straight line. It's a messy, tangled up web of connections. Schuster has this great analogy, a boomerang. If you throw a box, it just falls. But if you throw a boomerang, it comes back. It wasn't just your throw, the cause, that mattered. It's the structure of the boomerang itself. The system structure is what dictates its behavior.
So if that old way of thinking is the issue, what's the solution? Well, it takes a whole new perspective, a real paradigm shift. It's a new way of thinking called systems thinking.
Okay, so what is a system?
The definition is actually super simple. It's just a group of interconnected parts that together create their own behavior. Your body, that's a system. The company you work for, a system. Your family, your finances, the environment, yep, you guessed it, they're all systems. And understanding them starts with seeing their basic parts.
And pretty much every system has these three core parts. First, you've got the elements. These are the things you can actually see and count, like the players and the ball on a basketball team. Second, and this is the really important one, are the interconnections. These are the rules of the game, the strategies, the way the players communicate with each other. And third, you have the purpose, which in this case is to win the game. Now think about this. You can change the players, the elements, and you still have a basketball team. But if you change the rules, the interconnections, you've got a completely different game.
This idea is really the heart of systems thinking. Schuster tells this awesome story about asking his kids to guess what they were making while they were blindfolded, just by feeling the ingredients. They're touching gumdrops, icing, licorice, and they're totally clueless. But then the blindfolds come off, and they see it's all for a gingerbread house. Suddenly, it all makes perfect sense. You can't understand the system by just looking at the parts by themselves. You have to see the whole picture and how all those parts relate to each other.
So if systems are built from elements and their interconnections, what makes them run? What's the engine that drives how they behave? Let's pop the hood and take a look.
The answer is actually pretty simple. Feedback loops. A feedback loop is just a circular chain of cause and effect. A change in one part of the system loops all the way around to eventually affect that very same part again. This is the engine. This is the central mechanism of every single system out there.
And these loops really just come in two main flavors that drive everything. First, you've got reinforcing loops. These guys are amplifiers. They create exponential change, like a snowball rolling downhill, just getting bigger and bigger, faster and faster. Think about interest in a bank account. The more money you have, the more interest you earn, which gives you even more money. Then, on the other hand, you have balancing loops. These are all about stability. They're always trying to hit a target, like a thermostat in your house that's constantly turning the heat on or off to keep the room at just the right temperature.
Okay, this is where it gets really powerful, because once you understand feedback loops, you can start to see these hidden patterns, these traps that create so much of the frustration in our lives and in the world. The first trap is one we all know, whether we call it that or not. It's the success to the successful loop. This is where even a small initial advantage kicks off a powerful reinforcing loop that makes it harder and harder for anybody else to ever catch up.
Just think about the game Monopoly. The first person to buy a property and put a hotel on it starts collecting rent. That rent gives them more money to buy even more hotels, and pretty soon, it's almost impossible for anyone else to compete. This same exact thing plays out with top college football teams. Winning gets you more TV time, which helps you attract the best recruits and the most money, which, of course, leads to more winning. It's a classic reinforcing feedback loop in action.
So the second trap is called escalation. This is what happens when two or more competitors get sucked into a reinforcing loop where each one is just reacting to what the other one does, always trying to one-up them.
This tit-for-tat loop is unbelievably powerful. You can see it in huge global conflicts like the Cold War arms race. The US and the USSR just kept building more and more weapons in response to each other, creating a situation that was way more dangerous than either of them wanted. We also see this all the time in negative political campaigns. One side runs an attack ad, so the other side has to fire back with an even nastier one, and the whole system just spirals downward.
So, after all this theory and looking at these traps, what do we actually do with this? Systems thinking isn't just a cool idea. It's a practical, hands-on toolkit that you can start using right now.
So here's how you put it into practice. This is your new mental toolkit. From now on, instead of seeing isolated things, start looking for the interconnections between them. Ask yourself, what feedback loops might be driving what I'm seeing here? This is what lets you get past just treating the symptoms and start hunting for the real root problem in the structure. But honestly, the single most important shift is this. You stop asking who's to blame and you start asking what in the system is causing this outcome.
And that really brings us to the core of it all. This is a powerful new lens for looking at the world. It applies to your work, your health, your relationships, and the big issues we all face. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Now that you have this toolkit, what hidden system, somewhere in your world, can you suddenly see with perfect clarity?